warm welcome to Mr. Ross Couper.
Thank you very much, Adam. That was the most sustained complimentary talk I've ever had from you.
Okay. We are friends. I'll see if I can do better just on that level.
That was lovely, thank you. Hello everyone, it's good to see you all.
So this is a relaxed affair, I think. Are you feeling relaxed right now?
I am feeling more relaxed than I thought I would be. So that's all down to you guys. You've been very chill so far, so thank you. Thank you very much.
So what I would love to do is just to kind of allow you to shine. God, I thought that would be a cheesy thing to say. My brain said that would be a cheesy thing to say at this point. Don't say that. Oh, I said it. Oh. It's funny how you can't undo things in life, isn't it? I was thinking the other day about having a Command Z option for anyone who uses Apple. You know, you can like undo. You
I need a lot of them.
So I can't undo that. Anyway, Ross, I thought maybe we could just start with Baby Ross.
Baby Ross. Yeah? Okay.
Right back at the start of Ross Couper.
Okay.
Like, do you have even any idea? What's your first inklings of being Ross Couper on this planet?
Well, we can speak about music, I suppose. My first, some of my first memories were like lying in the cot or whatever, like one of those like freakishly early memories. It's kind of just like you can't properly remember it, but it's kind of like a sensation. And it was my mum and my parents are musical and used to play in bands and accompany some of the great fiddle players and musicians in Shetland. So my first musical memory is like lying in the, well, actually initially beside the piano while the rehearsal was going on. So it's like massive noise going on in the room. I was just like blissfully asleep. And it was like the likes of Willie Hunter, famous Shetland fiddle player, and the Cullivo band, and latterly, like when a little bit older, Brian Gear, and some of these guys, and Trevor Hunter, and just amazing Shetland musicians being in the house practicing with my parents, and that was my first. It's actually some of my first memories, and I remember lying in the bedroom through the house. And I knew when the door started opening and closing that was the end of the rehearsal, and I was absolutely pissed off because I was so enjoying lying there listening to the music, and then I was like, oh, it's over, and then I'd start crying, and Mum would have to come and settle me down again and all that. But that's my first sort of memories of music existing.
That's amazing. So right from the beginning, I don't know if any of you here read the Asterix books, but I was just reminded of those there, because do you remember the character Obelix? He fell into the magic potion when he was a baby and then was superhuman forever. I was just thinking about that when you were describing that there. It's like you were just, bathed in this from the word go.
From, very early on. Yeah.
And I'm just imagining that there's people out there listening, because I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel. Hope that's okay.
Might be a few edits. We'll see.
It'll be like 7 minutes long. But I'd like to imagine that we're speaking to people here that are maybe not in Scotland or don't know much about Scotland. And I'd quite like to just raise a bit of awareness about some of the cool stuff going on here. And so Ross is from Shetland. I'm pretty sure most folk here know where Shetland is, but could you just describe, as if someone has no idea where anything is, where Shetland is?
Where anything is?
Yeah.
Okay. Shetland is in the country of Scotland for the past 552 years. Ooh. Before that, we were Norwegian. So we're just about earned our Scottishness now after 500 odd years. But if you look at the map of Scotland, there's 2 dots at the top. That's how I always describe it to, like American tourists who come into the Ben Nevis bar, like, where's Shetland? I'm like, see the 2 dots at the top? It's the furthest away one. So it's 200 miles north of Aberdeen and 180 miles west of Bergen in Norway. So it's quite far out. Sometimes the map doesn't really do it justice, but it's a faraway place. The nearest, people keep saying the nearest train station is in Norway, but I don't know if that's actually true. But yeah, and it's comprised of somewhere around 120 islands, and 14, I think, of them, 14 or 15 of them are inhabited. So that's the crack. It's lots of scattered little islands, and it's a beautiful place. It's quite stark. There's not any trees, or certainly not many trees. The wind and the sheep keep down on the trees. So I think there's 23,000 people and somewhere like 120,000 sheep, something like that. So.
Well, that was just the most comprehensive answer I could possibly have. We had geography, we had population figures, we had weather, we had everything.
Agriculture.
I mean, that was sensational. I want to just pause and just bask in that for a second.
And even in Shetland, some of the places are very different from the other places in Shetland. You know, if you go out west to Fulla, that's a wild place entirely. There's only double figures of people that live there. And I remember a funny story about there was a fellow that drove his car. There's no police or anything like that out there. There's no standards of vehicle, you know what I mean? So the guy drove his car until all the forward gears broke. So then he reversed for 3 months. Until the reverse gearbox was totally shot down, and then he just left it where it was and got a new one, I think. So that's the kind of, there's places like that in Shetland, still quite wild and unruly, and I love them.
That's great. So we're getting a sense of the melting pot which created you that's sitting here today. And I'd like to keep going with that. So rehearsals in your mum's house. Talk to me about your mother's influence musically on yourself, because she's an incredible musician as well.
Yeah, my mum is called Margaret Robertson. She's a brilliant fiddle player and piano player, and she was my teacher. But before that, she brought all these influences into the house, and it was really her and my granddad. That was the first session I ever had when I could. This is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but it was with my granddad and my mum and stuff like that. And she learned the fiddle from him, and he learned from his granddad. So it's been passed down in the family for quite a few generations. And my mum was my main fiddle teacher really when I was younger, all the way through school until I left Shetland. So she's a huge influence on me and a lot of other youngsters that were playing at the time, and she's still teaching. 40 years she's been teaching now. So.
That's incredible. Yeah, she's an incredible woman, isn't she? If I'm mumbling, by the way, it's because I stupidly went to the dentist this morning. Did you understand that?
I was saying to Adam that I had an equally painful morning because I finished my tax return this morning. So I think I'd have rather went to the bloody dentist, to be honest.
You're one of the SWATs of the world. You did that, well done.
Did it before the 31st, yeah. I actually got in contact with an accountant yesterday and said, I've had it to my back teeth with tax returns. Any chance you can help? And he was like, what, for this year? Yes. So, yeah.
Okay, so the fiddle and your mum and the Shetland brewing pot. Who was your first? Your mum was your first fiddle teacher. Is that correct?
Actually, my first fiddle teacher was a woman called Bernadette Porter. She's no longer with us, unfortunately. She was a tremendous teacher, and I had her in primary school. And then, not long after that, we moved to school, and then I started getting my mum for lessons after that. So. And then
there's a whole cadre of fiddle players from Shetland who are just amazing. It seems like the quality of fiddle playing in Shetland per capita is astoundingly above average for the world, and it's a huge part of Shetland culture, right?
Well, I think that's the reason. It used to be that in the old croft houses there'd be a fiddle hanging on every wall. Well, not on every wall in the house. In every house there'd be a fiddle hanging on the wall, and it was said that in pretty much every house somebody could get a tune out of the fiddle with various different standards, but just because the way they entertained themselves back then was there was no halls, there was no pubs, there was no nothing like that. They all went to each other's houses. They had these mad dances in the sitting room, just like a dirt floor, just a fiddle player sitting and smashing out these tunes. They had to be bloody loud because people were drunk and just high as kites and just having a great time. And so for that reason, it was just such a source of entertainment to play for the dancing, and so there's so many fiddle players, and I think that's kind of led to nowadays with it being formalised in the school teaching. Now it's just brought everything up to there is a great standard, as you say, of fiddle playing there.
So
It's the same now in a lot of places, but in Shetland for sure, it's up there.
So for every fiddle, there's like a house hanging off it.
Yes.
Would you play us something just now, perhaps from your early years of learning a tune, or one of your first tunes that you can remember learning?
Sure.
That's a classic.
I
A
could.
good example of a Shetland tune.
I'll give you an old tune. Let me think now. This is kind of unrehearsed, but that's the best way. Play you. Just I can't remember if this is traditional or not. Maybe I could actually play a traditional one.
Anything you like.
Anything.
Anything you like.
I'll give you one of the first tunes I learned, a great Shetland tune called Hurlick's Reel. Don't know if anybody knows that. Maybe, is there any fiddle players here? Yeah, a few. Okay, well here's a tune called Hurlick's Reel for you.
I was going to let you just play that on your own, but then I just kind of couldn't not join in. Sorry about that.
A little rough, but well, it's early. I was just saying, I've never ironed this early in the day. And yeah, it's all right though. That's a fun tune. That's a well-known one. That's known all the world over. Hurlick's Reel. I don't know. I can't remember if it's traditional. I think it is. Yeah.
It's funny, the whole traditional tunes thing, and there's so many tunes that are just down as traditional and we don't know who wrote them. And my favourite quote on this is from Charlie McKerran, a fantastic fiddle player composer who I actually had on one of these a few years ago. And on this topic he said, they didn't write themselves. Someone wrote them. It's almost quite sad in a way that there's so many lost composers.
And now because everything is so recorded, will there ever be another traditional tune?
Now that is deep.
Right? Because everything's written down now and it's all online or whatever. So many tunes, is there ever going to be ones where you can't find out who wrote it? Who knows? There's certainly going to come a stage where that's a thing of the past.
That's my favourite new question to ask. I love that. Will there ever be another traditional tune again? Along with, will we get to a point when all of the possible combinations of notes have been used and there's no more tunes that can be written?
I know that's a worrying thing. It gets harder and harder.
But then it gets quite complicated because it would mean that one tune, if you assume a tune has 32 bars and 2 repeats, that one tune would have to go. That's just the A part. And another tune would have to go.
That actually reminds me of a tune.
I wrote.
Actually, Well chipped in, but there's actually a tune called Lel's Old Triumph, which is written about my granddad, written by Pat Shieldham Shaw, and the first half goes that's it, and then that's the whole first half.
Really?
Yep.
Literally one
note for ages, because it was an old Triumph motorbike that he was trying to, like the two-stroke or whatever it is. So yeah.
That's marvellous.
So I'll keep that one.
And also, let's just pause and enjoy Ross's singing, diddling skills. Exceptional.
I once did that in a gig. It's absolutely, you guys used to do it in Session 9. I thought that was quite a fun thing. So me and my pals, we were playing one time, and after playing the tune a couple of times, we decided to diddle it. We only did it once ever. And then at the end of the gig, this old woman came up and said, "Oh, it was lovely to hear some diddling." And I was like, "Oh, great." She's like, "Well, I'm the All-Ireland diddling champion of 1979. Whatever it was, I was like, bloody course you are, and of course you're here tonight. Yeah.
That's just amazing on loads of levels. So
how did all that shit fall together at one time?
Are these competitions still a thing? Because they bloody should be.
I think the diddling championships exist. I'm not going to be in them, but yeah.
Well, I think that's a shame. Just going to say. All right, and in no particular order, I feel like let's just. I'm going to mention just now, before we come back to your earlier life, Russ has got a new album, almost ready for release.
Yeah, nearly there, yes.
And it sounds absolutely sensational. I was lucky enough to hear a little bit of it the other night. And your launch is going to be later this year at the Shetland Folk Festival, is that correct? But you're actually going to be playing with your band the material from the album this Sunday.
Yeah, playing the whole album on Sunday.
At Celtic Connections. So that's going to be an amazing night, and that's in the Macintosh Church, is that correct?
Macintosh Church on Sunday the 28th, if anybody is at a loose end. It's me and the band is me, Paul Jennings on drums, Michael Biggins on piano, and Sam Mabbitt on melodeon. And on the album we have as a guest Duncan Lyle on the bass. Champions League, these guys. And so we were so pleased with the bass on the album that we've decided that he has to play with us on Sunday. So he is, and we're going to do it as a 5-piece, the whole album on Sunday. And if that's not enough to entice you, then Tim Eady is also playing. It's a double header gig. It's my band and it's Tim and some great guests. I was messaging Tim yesterday and he told me some of the guests, and you'll love them if you're coming along. They're great crack and great players. Very recognisable faces. So
I'm very sorry to be unable to go to that.
I actually have 2 tickets for Adam's gig on Sunday with Session Day night. And then I got a gig and it just ended up on the same night. So yeah, so I'm sad to miss that.
No, I'm very sad to miss your show.
Yeah, Session 9 also launching their album on Sunday. So that's cool. I'm launching my album later in the year at Shetland Folk Festival. So it'll be ready for then if anybody's going to that. If not, I recommend it.
So let's actually talk a bit more now about your composing. Because although you obviously play the traditional tunes and you've been brought up in that, you've also kind of found your own voice and your own creative spirit.
Yes.
I nearly didn't say that as well. Yeah, it's true. You have found your own voice, big style, and you've written a lot of tunes. And was it last year that you did New Voices for Celtic Connections Festival, or was it the year before?
This is 24, so 23, so 22.
2 years ago.
Was my New Voices, yeah.
So, just in case anyone doesn't know, well, I'm sure most of you here do know that New Voices, there's 3 every year for Celtic Connections Festival for a very long time. The festival selects an artist and they get given an hour on a Sunday to do what the hell they like, really, creatively. And I did one. Oh my god, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's 2004, was it 2004?
2004, gee. Anyway, it's not about me.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that.
Well, instead, if only.
Well, that was kind. That was lovely.
Thank you very much.
I was a bit old for the New Voices thing. somebody said, new voices? What's new about your voice?
Oh, croaky voices.
Correct, they were. But yeah, I remember it was an amazing experience.
So you got given this hour to fill.
Yeah.
I wonder if you experienced the same fear that I got when you initially had that. It's like a big, vast, empty void which you have to somehow fill with music, and it's not easy. I found. What was it like for you? What was the first thing that you did?
I went and bought a monitor.
A monitor,
Like a big monitor for
not a lizard,
for my computer. So I was like, I'm not going to write it on this small laptop thing. So, well, what actually happened is I was speaking to Donald on the phone about a gig. I was just wondering about doing a gig at Celtic Connections, and he mentioned a couple of options, and he said you could do a new voices and like you could do a gig with your brother, and that's fine. And how do you feel about a new voices? And it's something I thought about doing for a while and checking out of asking about or whatever. So, and I was like, well, if he's mentioning it now, I should just say yes. So I said yes, and then I hung up the phone and I went, Christ, what have I agreed to? And so I went and got this monitor, and I set it up in my corner of the room, and I just opened up Sibelius, which is like a music writing program, and I had 7 people in the band, so I just opened up 7 staves. And it was just like, it's like that big on the screen. And I was like, oh my God. Because you've got to fill 50 minutes or an hour. I can't remember, an hour, I think. And you're just starting with the blank page. And like, I think I sat and stared at it for 45 minutes, just staring at the blank page. Going, oh my God. But then, I don't know, I left it alone actually. And then I just started walking, like whenever I was walking around Glasgow, I just start trying to get little rhythms in my head, and like I'm quite bad for like when I'm walking in the street. There's a certain rhythm to that, and then there's little melodies come into my head that fit in with the feet tapping on the ground, and then once that starts, oh, my brain is just exploding. And like, all right, so that's good in a way. So I went home, and as soon as I got home, I like sang it right up until I got to the computer, and then started putting things in, and that was the start point. Yeah, just kind of, it's quite cool, that program, because you can just experiment. It's not like, like back in the old romantic music days, if a guy made a mistake, it was like, right, scrap that massive bit of paper. You can just move things around and experiment, and it's really fun, actually. I find it really, really fun. And the way I did my new voices, I did 3 really long numbers, like 10, 11, 12 minutes. 3 long ones, and those came reasonably quickly, or at least the framework for them came reasonably quickly. I knew where I wanted to go, starting this way, go up, go down, and faster, slower, and stuff like that. So it was actually an amazing experience, I have to say. It really helps move you on as a composer, I think, as well.
It was an amazing concert. Was anyone here at that particular concert? Yeah, quite a few hands up. It was.
Thank you for coming.
It was really fired up. So you're walking around the street, and that helps you get music going in your head, because I'm very curious to know how other people write music, so that's interesting. There is something about the rhythm of your whole body. I think you have to be alone, though, as well. I mean, actually, that's not entirely true, because sometimes I'm walking along, and my wife is like, Ross, for God's sake, will you stop that? But I think it helps if you're alone. You can just be in your own mind. So you get these in your head, and then you basically peg it home, sing it into your computer or something. I have done the thing that you do sometimes, just is like sing it into the phone. And then it's really embarrassing if you're looking through your voice memos and you click on it when other people are there. There's a what is that, Ross? Yeah, yours as bad as mine, utterly unintelligible. Yeah, it's not even that useful for me. Why did I think
dentist?
Why did I think that was some kind of amazing moment there? And I was like, that's awful. Anyway, yeah. So, would you play it just now? Something from your new voices and from your album? Would you share a little glimpse of that?
No bother. What one could I do? Yeah. Okay. I'll play you the end tune of... in fact, you know what I'll do? I'll play your tune. I wrote a tune and I called it Sutherland's for Adam here. So I'll play your one, okay? This is like the last tune on the album. Okay.
Shucks. Wasn't asking for that one, that one.
Better make a job of this one. So that was a wee... Sorry, I cleaned up my strings earlier on, so I'm sounding a bit scratchy at the moment, but we'll get there by the end. But yeah, that's one I wrote and decided to name it for Adam.
Oh, it's a very high honour to have a tune written for you. Was there some, what they call odd meters, as in, like, for some of the bars, 6, and some of
Well, the whole tune is 6/4.
It's all 6?
So it's just, yeah, it's kind of what I feel, it kind of feels like a reel, but with a little extra bit. So, it's kind of, you think about it as a reel, but in 3s kind of thing. More diddling, why the hell am I doing this? Yeah. So, I've always been a fan of 6/4 tunes. I love like a 3/4 march, I love a retreat march, and I love because reels are my favourite, but I love a 6/4 tune because there's just a little bit more time to think, and like, maybe a slight kind of a little bit, it's fired up, but it's a little bit more of a relaxed groove, if you know what I mean. So I love those types of tunes. And someone who writes brilliant ones, Adam has written an absolute classic, No More Cages, that's a 6/4 tune, isn't it?
I think so,
Yeah, and Adam's bandmate Ali Hutton, he's written an absolute cracker called The Hounds on the Heath, or something like that. That's the same. If you recognise these names and check out those tunes, they have the same kind of structure, same bar lengths anyway, and I love that feel. So, yeah.
That's amazing, because there's not a huge pile of 6/4s in the tradition, so you're very much setting sail for some...
And they will never be traditional.
But that's great. You're doing things your own way, and you're keeping it in the tradition. And actually, I have a question here. Someone from my Patreon team, I asked if they have any questions.
Oh dear.
One gentleman asked a question which I feel like is okay to ask now, given what we've just been discussing. How do you balance the desire for an audience to hear traditional tunes with the need to keep pushing and exploring what could become a new tradition?
That's a brilliant question, and it's a careful consideration when you're writing a set list. And the way it's working in my band at the moment is we're basically using my New Voices music, but like rearranged to fit in to that band. But I was conscious that it's just going to be, absolutely no well-kent tunes on there at all. So I have put in like a couple of traditional tunes in there, just to kind of, and also I wanted to do some traditional Shetland because I always feel like it's nice to honour that. And but when you're writing a set list in general, not just for that band, I balance it out just, I don't know, half and half I think is good, half just recognisable stuff. Because I think if you just pile into a gig and just do stuff that like no one recognises any of it, it's kind of impenetrable a little bit. I think people kind of go, okay, that was great, but there was nothing I recognise, and that's fine. A lot of bands do that, and that's cool, and those tunes become recognised. That's great, but I think it's a little bit, puts the audience a bit at ease if you just kind of just throw in a few recognisable numbers. You guys, I don't know if you agree with that, but that's the kind of aim I would go for, although I'm not really doing it in my band particularly. There's a couple of recognisable ones, but yeah, there's something in there.
But that's okay, because it's your band, it's your music, and that's what that's about. I have to say, it's really refreshing to, well, not refreshing, but it's great to hear an entertainer speak about caring about what it's like for people in the audience. I think that doesn't always come across, and that sounds really catty of me.
No, I think that's a serious, it's high in my...
It's up there. You're thinking about what this is going to be like for those listening.
Totally.
If you're on a stage, it's got to be...
What would I like to hear if I went to the gig?
Yeah.
And put myself in that position. Yeah.
And so, I noticed that you feel like about 50-50 kind of traditional sounding things.
Or like, if you want it to be more heavily based on your stuff, 70-30s, cool, do you know what I mean? But just enough there to keep the interest for traditional people who want to hear those traditional tunes. But
you're doing that not out of kind of duty, but I think it sounds like because you actually do love the traditional tunes still. You haven't left that.
Well, the reason I played music is because of those tunes. I didn't just start playing the fiddle and start writing my own stuff. I learned those tunes, and I owe it to those tunes, and owe it to that tradition to still hark back there occasionally. So that's my thinking of it.
I feel like that should have some applause. That's really grounded, and in your roots. And
well, that's what my mum taught me. You know what I mean? Things like that.
That's awesome. So your album launch later in the year at the Shetland Folk Festival.
Yes.
I mean, that's arguably the greatest folk festival in the history of the universe.
I'll argue with anyone who says otherwise.
Celtic Connections, of course, is obviously.
Yeah, no, we're at the other great festival.
But talk to us about the Shetland Folk Festival.
It's an amazing weekend where what it's like sometimes when you go to festivals and there's the backstage and you don't really see what happens there. There's the bands are there and you're there in the audience, and that's it. You might bump into each other if you get a festival club ticket, but even then there's the backstage there and there's the front bit. But at Shetland Folk Festival, that basically, I thought this might have happened, is that? At Shetland Folk Festival, those barriers are completely broken down. The audience are hanging out with the bands are hanging out with the audience. It's a really great time, and there's something in the, everyone always says there's like something in the air. There's just an atmosphere of everyone's, you get on the boat on the Wednesday night, everybody gets the boat there, apart from the select few who want to fly, because they're scared of the North Sea, which is fair enough. And so you get on the boat, and that's kind of the festival starts then for the bands, because everyone's there together, you're travelling together, and you make friends on the boat, and you see them all weekend. You make new pals instantly and for life. And Shetland is so excited to have people visiting, and they're so excited to show Shetland in its best light, so they look after everybody really well, and you get well fed and even better watered. And, as you can fully imagine, I'm sure, and it's a brilliant time. You don't sleep very much. Sleep is, it's pretty low, 3-4 hours a night if you're lucky. So that's good. By Monday, pretty wrecked. But it's an amazing time. I'd recommend it for anyone. It's a lot of Shetlanders will tell you it's their favourite time of the year. That and Upbringing. It's no Vikings, it's the Fiddle.
It's an amazing festival. I've been there a few times. I'm very glad to do that. I do remember going there to play, and just before the concert, just thinking about the audience. You know, thinking, right, who are you playing to here tonight? And it just hit me like a train. Like, you're playing the fiddle in Shetland to Shetlanders. And I just suddenly became really nervous and like, oh, good grief.
I actually supported you at Shetland Folk Festival when you were playing with the Peatbog Faeries.
What year was that?
Well, I don't exactly know the year, but I was playing with the Full Scaly Spellman Slag, that was our name. And we were supporting the Peatbogs. Remember, we were having this we were like, boys, listen, we're supporting the Peatbogs, so we better like show up, you know, ready. Lots of rehearsals, and they're taking it very seriously. And then you guys came, and it was a brilliant gig, and then I ended up playing in the bloody Peatbogs after you.
Yeah, well, let's talk about at the Peatbog Faeries. You are, well, actually there's now 2 fiddle players of late, but you've been the main guy for a long time now. Tell us about anything about what it's like being a Peatbog Faerie.
Yeah, it's good fun. Sometimes not much sleep there either. But I met the band, in fact you were with the band when I met, I knew the guys from before, but the way I started playing with the band was we met at Milwaukee Irish Festival, which is kind of it's a mad Irish festival, and kind of like a theme parkish type thing. And the Peatbogs were playing, and a band I used to play with called Bodega years ago, we were playing there. And we were staying in a hotel together, and it had a rooftop bar, that was the best thing about the whole festival. And I think the barman was called Joe, even though this was like 14 years ago or something. He was brilliant, cracking. He was just obsessed with like making cocktails for us and all that, you know, trying to show us a good time. Whenever someone comes to your town, you're excited to show them a good time, and this guy was the same. And we started having tunes on the rooftop bar, and at that time the Peatbogs were changing a little bit, going up to 2 fiddles, you and Peter Tickell. And I got asked, after we hung out, we got on well and we played well together, they asked if I would be a dep for whatever one of you could make it. That went on for a few years, and then I started playing full-time with the band in 2012, I think it was. End of 2011, start of 2012, something like that. So yeah, I kind of grew up, spent my 20s and 30s in the Peatbogs, which is fun.
And you guys also have released an album fairly recently.
Yes.
Probably a big, fat, amazing sound. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was a great experience. There were a lot of changes in the Peatbogs recently. New drummer, and Innes Watson joined the band as well, and Norman Wilmore, amazing Shetland musician, keyboard and saxophone. And so the band went through quite a big change, and the sound has changed somewhat. I mean, we've introduced a bit more vocals into the thing, and so it was actually it was great experience recording this album. A little bit different than the one I did before, because we actually used the studio this time. Whereas last time we just rented a log cabin in Agnaworkin and went on the piss for a fortnight, basically. But we were in a studio this time, and it was lovely, great crack, and very inventive time. And we're very happy with the album. It's called I See a World. So, and that's the lyrics to a song that's on the album, written by Tom Salter, the guitarist, a long-serving member of the band.
He's a character.
Tom is a character, yes.
Yeah, he's incredible. How about we play a tune written by the piper from the Peatbog Faeries, Peter Morrison, one of his better-known tunes, I suppose, these days, although he's written a lot of really amazing tunes.
Yeah, hundreds of tunes.
In fact, it seems fitting to play it at this festival, Room 215.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason it's called Room 215 was named after a hotel room in the Central Hotel. Remember that? And I believe this was in the last days of the Central Hotel before the big change, and some hotel rooms got thoroughly destroyed.
Well, I think there was a discovery by some of the musicians that the hotel was getting gutted after the festival. It was getting refurbished. It was just all in. So I think some of the musicians started the job early.
Yeah, it was actually an act of kindness. Yeah, that's what it was. So, but there was a party in this room for how long?
Weeks.
And it was a kind of permanent party. And yeah, so this is Room 215. by the fabulous Peter Morrison of Peatbog Faeries.
And if you have any questions, fire away. Okay.
Hi.
Thanks very much. That was Room 215 by the brilliant Peter Morrison.
Okay, so you, like me, were young once.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're still got a lot of your energy. It feels like you are on a really amazing journey right now with your music, and I'm just loving watching where this is going. And you spoke to me at first, quite a few years ago, about the idea of making your own album, and it's just been amazing to see you do that and to hear it. You are all going to love it, and I command you, all of you, to buy it. It's not an option. You can.
Well, that would be lovely. It is quite expensive.
You mean expensive to make?
Yeah. Oh my goodness me.
It's not expensive. Yeah, it's affordable for them to buy.
It's affordable for you guys. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you, it's basically it's stealable from the moment it's made. But you know, I know it's a very expensive endeavour making an album. If you get a bill for $1,000, you're like, oh, that's actually not too bad. There you go. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's, the whole business model is it's
upside down.
It's exciting at the moment. But yeah, let me just ask you a bit about where you're going, or it's a bit of a cheesy question, and forgive me if this is unfair to just spring this on you, but like, where do you imagine yourself to be musically in like 10 years' time?
Oh dearie me, I don't know.
Sorry, again, I do apologise, we don't have to do this.
If I'm still alive, I'd be pleased with that.
That's quite an optimistic... I like that, it's real. But seriously, is there any kind of musician that you feel like you're building towards being, that you're on a journey to get there, or are you kind of more just rooted in the here and now and loving that?
I would just love to get it, to like develop things so that I can just have my, like, you know, the two main things, Peatbogs and my band. And I still love playing music with a great guitarist called Tom Oakes, and I also play with my brother as well, little duo gigs. I love doing those as well, just like every now and again. It's a great experience, and also it's good as a fiddle player to put yourself where there's only the guitar and there's nowhere to hide. It's a good exercise for keeping you sharp. So I love doing that, but if I could get it where I'm just comfortable doing, you know, a couple of tours a year with Peatbogs, a couple of tours a year with my band, and smashing the festivals throughout the summer. And, you know, wee bits of teaching here and there if you have to do that to make ends meet, but just if I could just be comfortable just touring and doing the festivals, I would just be over the moon.
Well, that sounds like a great plan. So basically just destroying festivals for a few more years. That's what I like the way you worded that. That's the plan.
Just what I'm doing now, basically, but like just a little more, and
Yeah.
still doing it in 10 years. That would be good.
More is more.
More is more. Don't listen to anybody who tells you otherwise.
I've got a couple of more questions about. I mentioned the age thing because obviously there are a whole pile. That's not the best collective noun, but a whole pile of young musicians, an army, a squadron, a universe of young musicians who are just getting insanely good at playing and being professional. And I was wondering if you had any kind of advice to offer them, or even to your younger self, or anything that you would like to just pass on.
Well, just try and find out what your voice is and try and pay attention to that. Don't try and sound too much like anyone else. Try to beg, borrow and steal. I beg, borrow and steal off lots of people, but I try and kind of meld those things into what is... I would like to think that if someone turned on the radio, they would know that it was me playing the fiddle, basically. And I think all people should strive for that. Try and find your individual thing and don't try and just follow it too closely anyone. Just take the good bits and try and form your own voice. Gee whiz, that was some answer, wasn't it? My God.
That was excellent. So you're describing a kind of distillation process.
I didn't come up with everything I do, absolutely not. But I took the bits that I loved from other people, and you can tell them, they're like, oh, I love that. Can I? Nobody gives a damn about that. So it's just make your own voice and go with it.
Absolutely, that's great advice. And it's like, are there any fiddle players that you feel have particularly made you feel like, oh, I'm loving that? I want to do a bit of that you would like to name, or just kind of
tons of them.
about?
I mean, like your bandmate Gordon Gunn was when I was like 14. I think I heard his solo album. I'd never heard the fiddle played like that. Played the tune, and then when he'd played the tune, he just went berserk, doing all these improvisational passages, and I was just like, oh my God. And like, so it's the first time I'd heard that being done, and that's a big part of what I do now. It's certainly in a similar way to him, and I've kind of begged, borrowed and steal the same thing from many people. Chris Stout, we were growing up, Kevin Henderson, Jenna Reid, Katrina MacDonald, all the Shetland people who were doing it as a job. They really showed me and people my age that this is something you could do. Because some of the Shetlanders, the older folk, could be like, playing music, you're just playing it's not a profession. But like these guys were showing us that it could be done, and it was a way that you could go and do what you love for a pretty scar of money.
That's excellent. And what about, this isn't a question that's asked very often. It's always like, do you have any advice for the younger generation? But I just feel like asking, do you have any advice for the older generation? And obviously, that doesn't apply to anyone here today, but just in case anyone is...
Just keep her steady.
Keep her steady. There you go. A silly question there, I just thought I'd chuck that in.
I'm not that young now, so...
How old are you? Do you mind speaking about your age?
I'm 36. It's no old, but I'm not 26. So,
Okay. Well, we're almost...
Actually, I had a fiddle teacher called Ian McFarlane once at Plockton. I met him the other night, and he said, "What age are you now, Ross?" And I said, "Oh, I'm 36. And he went, "Jesus Christ."
Because he was teaching you when you were...
Yeah, when I was in school at Plockton, yeah.
Yeah, you went to Plockton, of course, the School of Excellence there. Is that
The School of Excellence.
Is that what it's called?
It is actually called the School of Excellence, the traditional music. Except I went there. So Ian McFarlane, brilliant fiddle teacher, and I had him as a teacher when I was there. And I had Katrina MacDonald as well. I should mention her when I was at Newcastle University.
And Dougie Pincock, who's just retired from being the kind of head teacher of the School of Excellence.
Yep.
He was probably quite a big part of your life as well.
He was, and I was a big headache for him. Yeah, suspended a couple of times. Yeah.
Was it him that told you that you had been suspended?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to have heard that conversation.
Yeah. And the way they used to do it then is you had to phone your parents and you had to tell them. So he was like, there's the phone, and they just stand over you until you do it. Dialing the number going, oh God, Mum.
And how did your mum take that news?
She wasn't great the first time. The second time I think it was, we're covering old ground, but then she was just like, just try and behave. So,
Your mum is amazing. Where are we at then? Yeah, so we're almost out of time. Do you have anything that you wish to just say before we play some tunes to finish off?
I would like to just thank you for coming and listening to me speaking. I'm most surprised and happy that you're here. I know it's Adam's event, but thank you for coming and listening to me. Blether on, you Blether enthusiasts. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say. I'm just working away. Don't know what'll be next. I'm going to work away with my band now, try and get some gigs going and all that, get the album out. And keep an eye out for that. You'll see, if you're on my Facebook, you'll see it. I speak enough rubbish on there, but I'll try and get the album in amongst it.
Actually, we've probably got time for one maybe question from the room, if we have one. Yes, Walter.
When you started replaying your new voices material, how long did it take you to do it without throwing the sheet on music up in your...
When I started playing it again, to be honest, I had the music on the day, but I'd been sitting in front of that music for so long that I didn't really need it on the first time I did it, because it was, and I don't know do you remember the gig? It all fell over. So I just, a professional musician who couldn't work out how to tighten a music stand. And so it fell over, and Chris Stout, who was sitting next to me, was like, "Boy, does it really need you?" And I was like, "I suppose not, I'll just try and wing it." But I was there as a guide, but no, thank you. This time, I then also had to rejig a few things. So in the process of doing that, it all just kind of went in. So, thankfully.
And so, can you just translate what Chris Stout said to you on the stage? But first of all, what was it he said?
He said, "Boy, is it really needing you?" So it just says, "Boy, do you really need that?" Yeah.
How many folk understood what he said first time? Oh, quite a few actually.
Surprising amount, very well done.
That's good. And could you actually just give us your favourite Shetland word that maybe no one knows?
Not in the presence of your child.
Well, yeah, there's some great ones. Yeah,
I like the word spaggy.
Spaggy.
Because there's not really a one-word translation of that into English. It's the feeling that you feel when you've been exercising, muscle fatigue. We call that the spaggy. There's not really an English word for that. I suppose it's just tired. But yeah, the spaggy, that's a good word.
You also gave us a word that we have in our house. It describes our cat when he's gone a little bit mental and is a bit dangerous. And filskit.
Filskit, yeah, that's it.
And is that what that means, mental and dangerous?
Yeah,
or?
Kind of high as a kite, mental, running around the place, filskit, yeah.
Filskit. Great, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Also that feeling if you have the first, when you have the first pint, you're like, oh, that's kind of filskit.
Well, I think we should do that immediately after this, and let's finish off. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes. Can we play this tune of yours, which I absolutely adore? I think it might be my favourite tune at the moment. Has been for quite a few years. If I get this correct, it's called the Melbourne Scottish Fiddle Club's Trip to Shetland.
That's right. I gave it to them to name. And then
I thought you named that.
No, because they asked me to write it, and usually you give it to whoever you're writing it for to name it. And I was like, okay, there's 60 or 70 of these guys, right? They'll come up with a good name, and that was the name.
Well, let's finish off with that then. So here we go.
Yes, thank you very much for coming.
My mouth's still numb, this is embarrassing.
Okay.
Take away. Thank you, Celtic Connections Festival. Thank you to Amy on sound. Thank you all for looking after us so well, making us feel nice and warm inside. And thank you all indeed. And thank you, little one, for the cameo appearance there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Enjoy the rest of the festival, folks. Cheers.